Alrighty, everybody. So today we are starting a new mead, one I am calling Blackberry Apocalypse. Why am I naming it that? Well, because it takes a crap ton of blackberries. This is not gonna be just like, oh, it's kind of blackberry flavored. No, 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 no. This is gonna be hit you in the face blackberry, and it's gonna be carbonated, so it's gonna be almost champagne-like blackberry. Kind of like a sparkling red wine, but a bit more tart and a bit more depth to it. I've made this before by accident. It was carbonated, and this time around I'm going to carbonate it on purpose. Crazy idea. So the last time I made this, I had my large fermenter and I overfilled it by a lot. And so this time around, we're gonna go a bit more conservatively. So a bit more. That is very much in quotes. So first thing I want to do is get the fermenter filled with blackberries. And in this particular case, I have 4 pounds, 4 entire pounds of blackberries going into this brew. So it's not a shy amount. These are blackberries from the Okanagan Valley that I picked up from a farm stand. And they are from thorn-free vines, so yay for that. If you've ever picked blackberries from thorny vines, it sucks. So kudos to them for getting the thorn-free vines. And if you look at how big this blackberry is, I'll show it in this camera. Look, it's giant. It is absolutely giant blackberries. So very excited to get that started. So once again, we'll be using the hop type bag to keep everything contained. Blackberry especially loves to float towards the top. So we're gonna have the bag, we're gonna have some weights on it, and hopefully it'll stay somewhat close to the bottom. But first thing is first, we'll get the blackberries into the fermenter. And once again, as always, everything has been sanitized, including my hands, in the lovely black bucket. And so it's a mixture of water and Star San mixed to the manufacturer's directions. Always very important to sanitize. Otherwise, you get an infection and it can make your mead taste terrible, or even worse, it could make the fruit go moldy and you just have to toss the entire thing. And that would suck. So let's get these all in here. They were frozen as of yesterday, and right now they are still quite cold. So fermentation may take a little bit longer to start because of that. But because of freezing these berries, the cell walls have broken down quite a bit, making it easier for the yeast to do their thing a little bit early on. So yeah, there we go. This is much easier than the last time I did this. Yay, freezing. There we go. There we go. Get in there. Go to your home. There we go. We want all the juices, all the bits and pieces. There we go. And that can get recycled once I rinse it. I am now juice free and can tie this baby up. There we go. It's always fun tying this thing. I really should find a better way of doing it, but you know, the old tying a balloon way seems to work relatively fine most days, if I can get it to stay still. There we go. Nice and tight. There we go. All right. Those are in there, and I'm gonna go ahead and put the weights on top. And we'll find out later if the weights from the raspberry the PB&J mead have to make their way in here. All right, so there is that. We don't need this anymore. All right, so we're gonna set this aside for a moment. And now we're gonna get the honey. Now this is gonna be fun because I'm making a 2-gallon batch and it's gonna be a fairly high ABV, it's gonna require 6 pounds of honey. So I have Kirkland, tear that. There we go. I have Kirkland wildflower honey here from Canada. I'm holding it upside down because I'm basically going to be using the entire bottle. This is 3 kilos, which ends up being about 6.5 pounds. So I want to be able to just go as quickly as I can. So, this is the fun part. Oh, they changed the tab. That's unfortunate. There we go. All right, here we go. Yeah, I don't want to have to wait all day to get those last little bits. So starting it upside down just makes life a little bit easier. And I'm using my bigger pitcher because it has an extra quart of volume, because this is going to take a few rounds of water to mix in. All right, so I'm at 4 pounds now. Very good. 5 3/4. 5.8. 5.9. Just a little bit more. 5.95. Come on. 9.6. Oh, come on. There we go. 6 pounds. And like 4/1000ths of a pound over. That's basically just 6 pounds. So, so much honey. Let's get rid of this scale. There we go. As you can see, that is a crap ton of honey. So, this is going to take a while to stir together. So, let's get some water, good old-fashioned spring water. Now, I love using pre-measured gallons of water, or in this case 4-liter bottles of water, because one, it gets me just a little bit more than enough of the water that I need these days, but they also work really well for conditioning later. There we go. Yeah, we're gonna be here for a little bit. Now, you may be wondering, why would I use this container, which is 3.2 gallons for a 2-gallon batch? Well, Blackberry ferments rather vigorously. And so I want to have that headspace for all of the croissant and all of the bubbles that are gonna happen. And I want to avoid it becoming a volcano like I did the first time around. So I'm going to be very careful and not add 2 gallons of water to this mess. Excuse me. I'm going to add water up to the 2-gallon mark. What does that mean? Well, obviously the blackberries take up space, and obviously honey takes up space. So I will not be using as much water as you may think, but there's plenty of juices from the blackberries that'll help keep this be a larger batch. It may not end up being a full 2-gallon batch by the time things are said and done, but I'll be working on my yields, that's the word I want to use, my yields at a later time, because that requires extra math, and Right now, my brain cannot handle that. As I said in my last video when I dumped the mother-in-law piment, yes, that was very sad. I'm no longer going to school, and so I'm going to have to learn a bit more on the job, School of Hard Knocks, things like that. There are other programs out there, however, not in my location and not that are specified for the science and industry of beer. So life goes on with that. All right, let's take a look-see. That's pretty good. I'm gonna go once more around with the spattle. If you didn't know, it's a spoon, it's a paddle, it's a spattle. Here we go. All right. And in we go. Sounds like the weight's already moved, or at least one of them has. And looking at the pitcher, it looks like I do still have some on the side. So how much water do I want to use? I'm gonna go up to, I think I'm just gonna go to the 1 quart line, maybe 1.5. I'll go to the 1.5. And give it another good stir. Now, what else am I doing while I do this stirring? I am adding oxygen to the brew. And oxygen is very, very important at this stage of the process because fermentation happens after the yeast have gone through the budding phase or lag phase and exponential growth phase where they reproduce and they build their cell walls all nice and strong, which they have to have oxygen for. So the more oxygen now, the better. Oxygen later is bad because that has the possibility of turning the brew into vinegar. Oh, I'm good. Yeah, I am. Just need just a smidgen more water. I'm gonna go to the top of the green line. There we go. All right, so the honey is in, the blackberries are in. What's next? You'll find out in a moment. Ooh, she's heavy. She's a big girl. She is definitely a big girl. All right. And at this moment, yep, there goes the weight. So my hand, let me sanitize even more of my hand, like my entire arm, so I can get in there and replace the weight. Ooh, here we go. Diving in. 1. I know the other one's in here. Ooh. There it is. Found it. And 2. All right, that's better. Let me wash my hand again. Okay, so next we are going to take a pH reading. Now, why am I taking a pH reading even though I'm not going to school anymore? I've built the habit, and it's just generally a half decent thing to know. This process of fermentation is an acidifying process, so the chances of something growing in the brew, like bacteria or something like botulism, is very, very low. But, you know, it's also a good data point to have. There we go. In case something goes wrong. So better to have more information than I need than to have a problem happen and not have the information I need. Alrighty, so looking at my pH meter, we are at a pH of 3.7. Again, this has been sanitized, so I can just do this. Haha. What did I say? 3.7? 3.7. Turn that off. We'll add that to the spreadsheet. Next, we're going to go ahead and take a gravity reading. Well, what is a gravity reading? A gravity reading essentially tells us how much fermentable sugar there is in the liquid. Now, by measuring this and measuring it again when fermentation is done, we get an estimate on what the alcohol by volume is in the brew. We're at 29.6. Oh my. 29.6. So that is ridiculously high. This puts it at a gravity of 1.127. Again, that is ridiculously high. It is basically what it was. It's going the way that it's supposed to, I promise. Because the yeast we'll be using is Mangrove Jack's Mead yeast. And its alcohol tolerance is up to 18%. Whereas this, supposedly, is going to go to about 16%. So this will be very good to have. All right, so, and one of the other reasons I'm using this is because it's what I used last time, and I know that it works really well with this fermentation. So, we wipe that out. Again, turn that off. Finally, we've got some yeast nutrient and some pectic enzyme. Why am I adding yeast nutrient even though the blackberries have quite a bit of nutrient? Well, let's say because of the higher alcohol content, the yeast will need more nutrients. That's just how it goes. The more alcohol there is, the thinner the cell walls are once the alcohol is present. Words are hard sometimes. Once alcohol is present, it starts degrading the cell walls of the yeast and they start deteriorating. If they have more nutrients, they're able to continue building those cell walls and therefore able to continue fermentation, thus also creating a higher alcohol product. It's kind of crazy how that works. Excuse me. And what I've also got is pectic enzyme. Pectic enzyme helps break down pectin. Pectin is a compound in fruits that helps it gel together. It's the one reason that we have things like preserves and jam and jelly. So by adding this enzyme, it's going to break down that compound and allow the mead to clear. I don't want a hazy mead. I would prefer to have a nice clear mead. And so that's what the pectic enzyme is for. I'm using it both in primary and in secondary because in secondary, in about 3 weeks, 3, maybe 4. We'll see how this fermentation goes. I will be taking out the blackberries that are in here and adding more blackberries. So what's happening is during the fermentation process, it's kind of a cooking almost of the berries. You get one flavor of the berries from that process, and then by adding fresh blackberries at the end of fermentation, you get more of that fresh fruit sort of taste. So Fermade O is my preferred nutrient. We're going to add that and the pectic enzyme. If it'll go in. The one problem with Fermade O is that it reacts very quickly to a humid environment, to water in general, and it starts sticking together, and so it makes life a little difficult. Alrighty, so what do we got? We got the water, we got the honey, we got the blackberries, we've got the yeast. I need to add the yeast. I've got the nutrients. I've got the pectic enzyme. Just got to add the yeast now. So because this is a 2-gallon batch, I'll use about half of the packet. Yeah, that's about half. All right. That is there, and now I'm gonna stick a lid on with an airlock. The airlock allows for carbon dioxide, which is a byproduct of the fermentation process, to escape without letting anything like bugs into the brew. We don't want bugs. Bugs are bad. All right, so I think that's it for today. I'll see you in about 3, maybe 4 weeks once this has done its first round of fermenting. See y'all next time.